Welcome everybody to this week's Dissecting Design, and oh boy have I picked an interesting one for you this time. This is A Valley Without Wind. One of the most ambitious and just outright crazy games I've played in recent years. This is from Arcen Games, and famously enough, this is the game that got me in touch with Chris Park to begin with and started our friendship over the podcast and talking about design. But this is certainly a special game. This is a game that would have gone on to nearly bankrupt the company and change Chris's entire development process after the failure of it. And this is just a crazy game to look at. On the simplest side of things, this is a procedurally generated Metroidvania roguelike, where you are rebuilding civilization and unlocking more and more content. And that is one of the more ambitious aspects of A Valley Without Wind. But unfortunately, this is one of those cases where the basic foundation just did not do much to excite. And this is going to be an interesting one to talk about. So let's get in, and we'll start with just the basic controls and setting. Alright, so we're at the character selection part of A Valley Without Wind now, and the game itself is designed around getting these heroes of different ages or periods. As you can see, they're all part of the Ice Age because this is how you start the game. Their abilities are randomly selected here, as well as their stats, and typically having a high attack power is a good beginning thing. So we'll just get things going here. And as you can probably tell, the graphics aren't exactly the most amazing aspect of the game. That was kind of one of the bit of complaints about the title to begin with. Getting gravestones. You can see along the bottom left my health, mana, and so on. The idea is that as the game goes on, you're going to go on more and more quests, and in turn, these will add new things to the procedural generation, very similar to the Binding of Isaac. But to get everything, there you'll have to look around. Oh, come on. Right. And similar to other games, there's this whole weird thing that I'm going to have to be placing platforms and ladders and stuff on my own. So this is the starting dungeon. And again, we'll get some more little tips. So again, the idea is whatever you set to slots 1 and 2 are what you'll control with left and right click respectively. Oh, here we go again. The music, though, is pretty good. And everything about the game is procedurally generated. Right. Wrong thing. And there's a lot of details in this game. So the idea is if you look at the map down here, you always want to look for stashes. I also want you to take note right now of the procedural generation in terms of how the rooms are designed, because they go about like a little bit of craziness. Take that. So here's something else. we're not going there just yet. So we got super speed. And the game really loves to give you like a crazy amount of abilities and powers of varying use. So I don't think we can make it to that room here without having some kind of special ability. So let's see if we can make it out here. Oh, ventilation gets us in there. And the spells come in varying styles, abilities, how they'll move around, as you can see here. And depending upon what skills you get early on, that will go a long way towards making life either easier or a nightmare for you. But we are just about out. Oh, we got an achievement. And let's get to the actual world, hopefully. Now what? Okay, blah blah blah. And hopefully I can get out here. Okay. So I don't think I can get out here. Or let's see if we can. Okay, good. And you can see how the map is getting a little bit crazy over there. We're getting some bigger areas. Oops. And if you die, that is it for your character. What's this? Go. One of the more potential strategies is just like run. At enemies and just go at like that. Let's see, maybe this will work. Come on, game. Alright, so he is strong against air and fire. Which, unfortunately, that's what we have. Maybe we can find something better. Or we'll be in deep trouble. Let's see. Then we have dungeons over here, which again you can see. Oh, we actually have a boss, so I can show that off. And then you can mine resources here for even more progression. Again, this is a game that they try to put like everything and anything they could think of to make this game as big as it could be. Let's see. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to get rid of those messages in 1 second. There we go. Again, enemies are a very basic variety in the game. Well, I can at least show off a boss fight, hopefully, and not die. But I'll finish the tutorial up here, and we'll get back to it at the main map, and we'll talk more about the progression in A Valley Without Wind next. Alright, welcome back. So I finished the tutorial, and now it's time to talk about one of the more frightening aspects of A Valley Without Wind, and that is the unlocking structure. So in the big honkin' encyclopedia, as you can see, there are a lot of things to go for. On this section, you can see various tasks with what they unlock. And these become unlocked for subsequent plays, either in a different world, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, or within with a new character. Now, the level that they're talking about is basically every time you beat the game or beat a section, the chunk level goes up. And then, the continent level goes up, followed by the chunk level, and then the lieutenants raise the overlord. I know it sounds very complicated, but let's go out to the main map and we'll talk a little bit more. Yeah. So, the map itself here, this is all procedurally generated. Our mission is to clear the overlord, right here. But going directly to him from the start will probably get us killed. In order to move forward, we need to do missions and deal with the lieutenants around. As the lieutenants are level 2, overlord's level 23. Every time we defeat lieutenant, it will weaken them, and we can also send our survivors on dispatch missions when they're strong enough to go further. Now, to make things even bigger, I'm going to head back to the settlement here. Yeah. We also can craft new spells. But to do so, we need various essences and items, which, you guessed it, are found within the world. But different items are found in different parts of said world. And as we play and we beat continents, and we go to new ones, we'll unlock more challenges. This includes brand new areas, brand new spells, characters, ingredients for more upgrades. Here's one, unlocking new bosses to fight. And it goes on and on and on. As you can see, as we go further, and then every time we go into a new continent, or we generate a new one, new stuff gets added here, including new regions, monster types. You can even see city building structures. Even says a new game mechanic gets unlocked, and so on and so forth. And this was all in the basic version of A Valley Without Wind. The game did not receive any expansions, and we'll talk more about why that is in a later section. But let's go on a mission and see what we can find. We have boss towers, delving. Oh, and then the different missions actually have sometimes mini games, such as keeping enemies from hitting the ground, or avoiding damage, and so on. Now, I can explore each and every one of these snowfields and such for base materials. And again, each area has its own set of possible rewards, items, enemies, and again, it just goes on and on. Now, the idea is I need to get to the end of a settlement, and I'll show you what this is right here. Or, get to the end of an area to build. Oh, jeez. I forgot that double tap is actually... Oh, I'm going to be able to get up here. Come on, get up there, you. Now, it's very important. I'm going to move this over here so I can actually cut down trees in order to get cedar logs, which are also used for crafting. You can look in the bottom right there. That's the actual map. Now again, this is not a mission-defined zone, so there's not going to be too much in terms of procedural. Jeez, what the heck was that? And again, if I kill enough enemies, we'll unlock new variants. And then there's sometimes caves. And if I want to do that, if I want to go down here, I should probably equip my light enchant. But since we're not going to be doing too much exploring on this one, I think I accidentally hit the save thing. Wait, there we go. We'll just rush through. Hopefully. Oh no, I think I can get out of there. And there are spells that enhance jumping. Some that give you like the ability to infinite jump. There's a chance I can enhance your base jumping power. And so on and so forth. So let's go to another square. Because apparently we're not getting lucky with procedural generation today. Oh, and that's right. Even the maps that show that they don't have anything, there's a chance they may actually have a secret mission. Yeah, this is like the never-ending game in terms of rewards and challenges. Uh-oh. I need health. Die. Can I go in here? Yeah. So again, we go into one of these rooms. And the procedural generation, if you haven't guessed by now, it is very loose. It's more about just putting a lot of stuff in front of you, rather than a cohesive kind of procedural generation. Which is one of the complaints about the game. But maybe, just maybe, we can get to the end of a section and I can show you what happens then. Oh, and there's also lore about the various areas as well. Alright, where is the tower? Here it is. So now we'll get to fight some bosses, hopefully. Oh. And what I will do... Can I put something better? Yeah, some of these can only be equipped in certain spots, so I guess we'll put things back on. Alright. And here's what some of the bosses look like. Oh. Apparently I should put that on. Oh no. I'm so dead. Can we make it through? No, I'm not gonna be beating him with 1 point of health. Oh, we did it. And then these things will usually power up minions. Or spawn them over time. Where the heck are we? Alright, can we make it further? Oh. And we use these shards to buy even more things in this game. And another major element of the win again is just the size of this design. This is a game that, if you fall in love with it, I can't even calculate the amount of time you could spend going through it. There's just so much to do. Uh-oh. Now what are we gonna fight? What's this thing again? And there are other types of bosses as well. Oh, I don't even know where that guy came from. Alright, you're dead. Now we gotta find the way out. Of course, we're unlocking new enchants that can be further slotted in to add even more power. Oh no, not acid. Alright, we're almost to the top. And of course, by doing this and beating these bosses, we'll unlock even more towards our overall progression. Here's something evil coming around. Uh-oh. This does not look good for me. Oh, jeez. But again, it doesn't really matter. We can choose someone else. And all of our items will usually get stored. But that was also another really good example to show just how weird the procedural generation can get. Now we have more missions. So we'll do another mission here. Okay, so this is going to be one of those special challenges. So now we need to use our spells in order to propel us to avoid spikes and other dangers. Like I said, there's just a lot to evaluate without win. And again, if we play more, we unlock more mission variants. Can I speed myself up? Come on. We're getting there. And then once this mission is done, we'll finally try to get to the end of a region or an area, and I can show you what happens then. Oh. And like I said, while we're doing this falling, we are not even getting close to everything that's in this game. Oh no. It's like I'm playing Downwell all over again. Just 150 left. I can use my magic to pounce me around here. And again, all this is procedurally generated. Yay, we made it. So we unlocked achievements. And I have a new spell. And that's a level 2 spell, so it's going to be even more powerful than what we had before. How do we get out of here? There we go. So the mission is done. Now, if we want to clear some of these areas out, hopefully you're not seeing that the Steam thing on the right. There we go. Going to return here. And this happens when you enter a storm section. You have to set up wind shelters to push things back. Now the Guardian powers that they're talking about, let's see if we can find them here. Change of difficulty, dispatch. We can find Guardian power scrolls. And we'll do one more mission. Let's see, what should we do? That's another free fall. That's a boss delve. I know, we'll go into one of these regions. Try to change things up. Because the world, according to the lore, has been completely shattered, means that every area basically looks completely different, which means different enemies, and all manner of weirdness. And every one of these buildings, again, I can go into for another procedurally generated area with rewards and items and so on. So I'm going to try and zip my way through. So I would like to show you what happens at the end. But just take note on the map here, all the little red squares are potential areas to explore. Like, imagine if I wanted to do a let's play of this game. I don't know if we would ever finish it. Not sure why I couldn't jump there. Of course, I can break these trees down for items too. Are they weak to it? No, they're resisting. Put that on for some double shot. Get away from me, you. You can play this with, I believe, a gamepad, but I found just the easier to play this with the keyboard and mouse for aiming purposes. They're getting like stuck together, aren't they? Now imagine if I didn't have my super run spell right now. And there are spells for just about everything. There's a spell that lets you grapple, there's a spell for turning into an animal and flying around, there's infinite jumping, super jumping, armor. There's just so much to this game. Alright, we're getting close to the end here. And then after this, hopefully, we'll move on to probably one of our final sections and talk about some of the issues that happened. Oh wait, this is a super secret area. Let's see, what are these rewards? Oh, so this is what they were talking about with the wind shelters. Oh my goodness. Again, if I was playing the game for real, I would probably do that mission. But again, we'll be here for like another 3 hours if I wanted to play this game for real. Whee. No, is that it? Is there nothing left? They may only give the option to build when it comes to those missions with the Guardian powers. Can I just, like, warp out of here? Get away from me. I don't think it's gonna let me warp while there's trouble around. Are they done yet? I don't think it's gonna let me warp out. That sucks. Unless maybe I have to do it from a gate. Again, the game has a lot of esoteric rules to it in terms of trying to figure things out. Alright. Now will let me warp. There we go. Just run on out. But I'm going to go back to our settlement here and run around, and we'll move on to our next section talking about why this game didn't lay up the sales charts. So see you all in a second. Alright, welcome back. Since our last part, I managed to build a lighthouse, which adds even more bonuses to the game, and apparently we unlocked a bubble trap spell. Look at that go. And apparently I can ride them, if you would believe that as well. But, as you've seen over the length of this video so far, A Valley Without Wind has a lot to offer. Probably so much so that most people may not have ever seen everything there is. We even have lore to find as well. Look at all this stuff. Again, we have crafting recipes, various spells and items, and oh my goodness, all tied to different areas of varying difficulties and continent levels. It all sounds very impressive, but this game tanked, and it tanked hard, as I said at the beginning, and there are several reasons for it. The first is, I think from a graphic point of view, it doesn't exactly scream, you know, an amazing looking game. Our characters have like a very plain look to them. From the gameplay side, this is a great example of the difference between a micro and macro element changes in procedurally generated games. A lot of the stuff that gets added to A Valley Without Wind as you play are micro. They're not really changing how you're playing the game, they're just adding more stuff. And more stuff certainly keeps things varied, but it doesn't make the game feel different. Now, this video, I'm not even sure how long I've actually been doing this for so far. We've barely scratched the surface. We haven't unlocked any new people. We got a lumberman, so it sounds like a very awesome profession. Here's the decorative lighthouse we got. But there's still so much to do in this game, and again, a lot of it is not direct growth. When I spoke with Chris about the game way back in one of our first podcasts, he talked about how he wanted to put everything he could think of, everything he wanted, into A Valley Without Wind from the get-go, and why it was their most expensive game to develop. And look at this, we have a time warp spell. Oh my goodness, turn into a bat. Escape spells, and so on and so forth. They all add additional utility to the game, but it's not really making me do anything brand new. Now in this area, again, we're getting attacked by a windstorm. Which I'm curious if it's going to affect me inside the tower. That would be very funny if it does. Nope, we're good. But everything just adds up to, I think, busy work of playing. And when you die, it doesn't really do all that much. Yes, each character has different starting abilities, but again, it's as wide as it is long, or whatever that expression is. Again, we can craft spells. And all this, again, it sounds like it should make you want to play this game. But then you realize that anything that you're doing in a Valley Without Wind is kept on the simplistic side. And that is the other piece, or the other side of the coin when it comes to procedural generated gameplay. In order for it to work, the game conditions and mechanics have to be kept on the basic side in order for the game to generate an actual playable level. You can't do a procedurally generated level that's on par with the construction of something like Super Mario Galaxy and coming up with original environments and original obstacles. So in A Valley Without Wind 1, the procedural generation really just picks from a handful of variants, and you do unlock more as you saw with the different mission types, but it's not really changing how this game is going to be played. Like I said, we're on Continent 1 right now, and in order to even get to the majority of the unlocks, we still need to reach Continent 4. Right, where are you? Right here. And again, I don't even know how long that's going to take. And again, each time we go to another continent, we unlock more stuff. And this sounds like it should be a great hook, and it is. The Binding of Isaac and many games after A Valley Without Wind have done a lot with adding game mechanics and systems as a form of a persistent reward. But the problem is, those games had a very solid core to begin with. And these controls also aren't all that great. You're going to be constantly shifting your buttons here to try and get the right spells during combat. And again, it just seems like a lot of busy work of going through the enchants, buying new items over here. Oh great, we can send people to attack as well. We can buy more health if we wanted to. So we come over here. There's our health. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we want to do more, we have to swap things out. And as we grow or we do more into the game, we'll unlock even more options and more enchants. As you can see, as the chunk level goes up, the enemies will become more dangerous. And it's a game that's built on one basic gameplay loop that is then just repeated again and again and again. And as I said a few minutes ago, this game was designed around the long haul. This is a game that really doesn't open itself up until several hours of play. Once you've made it to Continent 2 or 3, you've gone through these challenges over here, and you've unlocked all manner of different spells, and characters, and areas, and again, the mind starts to, overload out the number of stuff that you're going to be doing here. But I honestly don't know of anyone who actually saw this game through to the end. I know I have several hardcore fans of Arcen over here on the YouTube channel, so I'm curious, for those of you who have followed Arcen since or before A Valley Without Wind, how far did you get in this game? Because even when I played this game back at launch for a review I wrote, I think I made a Continent 2, and I think that was about it. I don't know if I got any further. Oh, and this is a stealth mission. That you have to sneak around and try to defeat the boss. But once you've gone on one stealth mission, it's the same as all the other stealth missions. And the free fall is the same, and the boss stealth, and it just goes on and on. But we're going to head back to the main menu for my final thoughts. I want to talk about what this game did to Arcen. So, I'll see you all in a second. Alright, we're back to the menu here. Like I said in the previous sections, A Valor Without Wind was designed for the long-term play. This was a game that, on release, had many hours of content to play. But the problem was, not a lot of people wanted to go through it. I'm just going to turn the music, we'll just mute it down here. And because of that, so much time and money was sunk into A Valor Without Wind that it nearly destroyed Arcen Games. And I spoke to Chris about this several times, and he said this on interviews and blog posts. But if AI Wars didn't sell as well as it did, A Valor Without Wind would have killed the studio outright. It was that much of a money sink and that much of a failure. But as we've seen, there's a lot of good to this game, but it's just so much backloaded in terms of what it expects out of the player. You're going to have to do all the achievements and all the unlockables to get to, I guess, quote-unquote, the real game. And even then, you're still dealing with a cumbersome UI and all manner of little fiddly elements with the enchants and the spell gems and the missions. And it just was too much. And the lesson that Chris took from this and what was applied to further games was essentially a complete reverse of design philosophy from A Valor Without Wind. Going forward, what Arcen decided to do was focus on the front load of its design. Create a video game that is done, but is light on content, but you get the core gameplay loop immediately. And from there, this gave them the ability to see or measure how successful the game was and decide what to do further in terms of content. This would have been a part of A Valor Without Wind 2, as well as Skyward Collapse. What was it again? I always forget the other names of their games, I'm afraid. And there are a lot more of Arcen's catalog we could go into. But what happened was, if the game sold well enough, Chris would have had many ideas for expanding the respective game in the future. If it didn't sell well, then it would be basically, quietly put out to pasture, in a manner of speaking. Now, with A Valor Without Wind, they couldn't have done that because they just went overboard with everything from the get-go. Now, what's interesting is that A Valor Without Wind 2 is a completely different game. And I mean that. It's a completely different design. It has some elements of ActRaiser and RPG elements to it, rather than this massive open world procedurally generated sprawl of the first game. And maybe at some point we'll get to that. But in terms of lessons, when it comes to procedurally generated design and trying to create as much replayability as possible, the core gameplay loop has to be engaging. If you lose players 5 to 10 minutes in, they're not going to care how amazing your game is 10 to 15 hours down the line. From a development standpoint, this also means not basically overwhelming your core gameplay. Valor Without Wind has many different systems, as we've talked about over this video, but they don't really connect with the basic gameplay loop, which is the side-scrolling platforming and action. And because of that, it just feels like work on top of work on top of work. Some of the best games built on procedurally generated design have a very solid core gameplay loop that makes you want to keep coming back again and again. Stuff like Spelunky, and of course The Binding of Isaac, and even something like Asura, which we've looked at over this year, which is a roguelike ARPG. In that game, the elements are procedurally generated, and while it doesn't come anywhere near the complexity of A Valor Without Wind, the basic gameplay and the progression system are great enough that it keeps you coming back. And then you have the random and procedurally generated design as kind of the icing on the cake of that design. With A Valor Without Wind, it's just so big and so messy to play that it's very hard to really get engaged. But with that said, this is a game that, like I said, if you get hooked on a Valley Without Wind, you are going to play this game forever because there's just that amount of content to it. But it's such a niche experience. Again, I don't know of anyone who saw it fit to the end. And again, for those of you watching this who did play this for the long term, did you actually, how much did the game change when you got to Continent 3 and 4? I'm actually seeing some of my regulars on this list right now as it's scrolling up too, which is kind of funny. So maybe they will actually come and comment on this. But we'll wrap things up here. A Valley Without Wind is just a very interesting and strange game. A design that really hasn't been repeated since, that it's all its own. But it's just a case of, I guess, too much of a good thing. And again, if your core gameplay isn't engaging enough, it doesn't matter how many side systems, progression elements, procedural generation you have, if no one wants to just play the basic loop of your title. And like I said, maybe we will come back to a Valley Without Wind 2 at some point for a comparison. But with that said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games, with future Dissecting Design pieces up on Mondays. And yeah, I would like to ask if people would like to see a Let's Play of this game, but if we do that, it may never end. This would be the Let's Play to break reality. Maybe. Ooh, excuse me. But with that said, thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. For my writings as well as weekly podcasts, check out game-wisdom.com. For ways of supporting Game Wisdom and get access to rewards such as VIP status, as well as voting for the Saturday Night Grab Bag, check out patreon.com/gwbicer. You can follow me on Twitter at gwbicer for my daily thoughts as well as updates as to what's going on. So thanks again for watching, and be sure to check out our next video coming real soon to the channel.